Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you've all been excellent. As always, thank you for this week's questions. If you want to ask a question and have me answer it next week, leave it in the comments below. If you want to support the channel, there are links to my Patreon and the music that I make in the video description. If you're there checking the video description as well, you can also get some of my free cabinet impulses to try out if you use a modeler. All right, let's get into this week's questions, but first, some music. All right, first question is from Doug Eagle. I answered his George Lynch question last week, and hopefully you enjoyed this week's installment of 5-Minute Licks, Doug, because that was inspired in part by your question about George Lynch. We got into the side-to-side vibrato thing. This week's questions: how do you think a Telecaster functions in heavy high-gain music? I'm going to do a video about that at some point over the next month. Great question, but I've done several ragdoll gigs in drop C with a telly and really enjoyed them. So I think the fact that tellies are percussive and bright sounding guitars by nature can lend themselves very well to being used in that style of music to really kind of help you get that percussive cutting feel in a really loud rock band. The next question comes from Nubisaurus Rex. Hey man, what's up? A bit of a Perth alumni right here. Guitars with Floyd Roses. I do have several guitars with Floyds, but I never use them. Oh, listen to this. This is getting spicy already. I like this. So I've got a couple of Hager guitars, and I have an Ibanez RG550, which have floating Floyd-style trems on them. But like I said, I'm not really too into the floating vibrato thing. However, I do have a guitar on the way, which I'm going to demo on the channel, which does feature a Floyd-style bridge, and I'm pretty excited to actually try it out and get into some of that, because I think everyone thinks about the whammy bar action, but I actually think kind of part of the sound of that particular era of music is using a Floyd, the way you play chords and the way they kind of spring up and vibratos and things like that. I think it's a very important ingredient in the whole 80s thing. Brian Jones said this is slowly turning into Sonic Bob Ross. I think that's where it has to go. Rutger also mentions that the ISP Decimator Pro Rack G is great if you want a rack noise suppressor. So some good advice there. Shout out to Steven as well. Steve, I hope you're recovering very well, and you know, take your pills and do all your good stuff, mate, and you'll be on the mend very soon. This one's from David Suzuki. Could you go over in detail how you set up and amplify the Fractal FM3 for my home setup as well as for live use? David, I have a couple of videos detailing my live setup. I haven't really gone over the studio use, but that's a great idea for a standalone video. I will try and get onto that one over the next couple of weeks. If you have any specific things you'd like me to cover in that, let me know in the comments. Alrighty. And yeah, would anybody like me to put these WAV files up of just the music? I can do that if you want to have stuff to work to. Thank you, Christian, for the suggestion. Okay, this one's from Rick Cavria. I hope I pronounced that right. He's having a problem with the treble bleed circuit in his McCarty. The Axe-Fx gets ice picky. Any thoughts or workarounds? You could try change the input impedance in the input block on your Axe-Fx 3 and see if that changes it. Try the, what would the setting be? I think we could go for 90K plus a cap. Try that one out, or try the 90K setting and see if that helps at all. Alrighty, RL10, what's your opinion about the Engel E646 VS amp sim by Plugin Alliance, Brainworks? Have I demoed that one on here? I feel like I've done a few UAD, and by extension, you know, Brainworks, because they make the amp modeling plugins for UAD. I feel like I've done some of those, but maybe not that particular one, so maybe I can unlock the demo on my Apollo and do that. This one is from... what's the next question? Shout out to PRS Dave as well. I hope you get the chance to visit here before long. Let's just change something really quick with this multi-resonator. Oh, this is cool. This is back to last week's vibe. I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'm doing on this thing. That's kind of the fun with it. I like this swing kind of vibe. Do I? Not very zen. Let's come back over here. This one's from Jonathan Moran. Definitely need a coffee vid. All right, I need to up my camera game in order to do that. You think you're going the Fractal route in the not too distant future, or simplifying your rig to a preamp pedal and power amp. What advice would you give? Honestly, by the time you start exploring preamp pedals and like power amp sims and things like that, I think you're much better off just going all in on a modeler, whether it's a Fractal, whether it's something like the Line 6 Helix, whether you're hanging out to get the Quad Cortex, or even something like the HX Stomp, something nice and compact, or the PolyFX Bebo as well. That can do some very basic amp modeling, but that might be a really good unit to look at as well. I mean, you're hearing all the synthesis from it at the moment, which is kind of fun. I can change some stuff on it as well. So yeah, I reckon just go all in with an all-in-one modeler, John. If an Axe-FX 4 comes out, would I get one? I'd get 2, because then that would be like an Axe-FX 8, right? Thanks for the question, DMAC. I hope you're all right. All right, what are some features you hope Fractal are working on for this Cygnus firmware? The ability to use it as a coffee machine would be pretty awesome. It still can't make my morning coffee. Still can't drive me to a gig. I hope, in all seriousness though, I hope there's some new amp models in there for us all to play around with, and some kind of more usability stuff, because it would be awesome to get like a kind of setlist feature down the road or something like that on the Axe-FX 3. I would always like to see more kind of weird effects, like kind of granular effects or glitch effects. I'd love if they're able to add reverb IR loading at some point. That would be pretty fun, but I think it's going to chug regardless, and that's what everyone's excited about. This one's from Matt Nagy. Ian Moss, thoughts? Mossy is awesome. I was just saying to my wife earlier how we both prefer mossy Cold Chisel songs. And yeah, I smack on Telephone Booth and Tucker's Daughter every now and then. It's just a kind of feel-good jam. And my battery's dying, so segue. Next question from Who's Your Daddy? Of the two approaches, do you prefer high gain amps and boost pedals with an amp, or a clean amp like a Fender or a pedal platform with pedals for distortion? I am like 99% in the get your gain from the amp, and then if you want more gain for your lead sound, put a boost pedal on. If you want less gain, clean it up with your volume control or an EQ pedal or a volume pedal. That's the way I gigged right up until I got my first Axe-FX, and then I could automate all of those gain changes in there with scenes, so that's what I started doing. Although it was on an Axe-FX Ultra, so it was different presets, but then I got an AX8 and it was scenes, and I still use it like that. I'll still use amp gain, and the beauty of something like the Fractal is I can crank the virtual master volume and really get the amp cooking where I like it. And then, if I want to attach a controller to the input gain, I can do that, or turn on the input boost on the amp or something like that. So I still kind of stick to the same philosophy there, although drive pedals in front of clean amps I've grown to appreciate that over time, and it's definitely a thing for particular genres. I find it really cool for genres where you don't need high gain all the time. So yeah, 99% of the time I'm amp gain. Alrighty. Brett Garcia is an amazing guitarist. This one's from Louis. He was very fortunate to have him as his private instructor at MI. That's awesome. I remember growing up as a kid, I always wanted to go to MI, and I never did, but one of my buddies from Perth did, and it was kind of like one of those weird coincidences where he was studying over there the very first time I went into the States with Ragdoll, so we were able to catch up, and we had a really, really good time. He introduced me to the wonders of Buffalo Wild Wings, so shout out to Trent if you're watching this. I hope you're doing well, dude. Alrighty, this one's from Adrian Cummings. What are your thoughts on the guitar tone on Thunder in the East by Loudness? Yeah, that's like up there in terms of like that old school, just crushing, anthemic kind of metal tone. Akira is amazing, and if it wasn't for old 80s guitar player magazines, I never would have been aware of him. So I was really lucky that I had access to all my dad's old guitar mags, and was kind of aware of him and was aware of Loudness. So yeah, fantastic player, underrated, very, very underrated these days. Like a forgotten 80s guitar hero in my opinion. What are your thoughts on the Hager era for Van Halen? This one's from the channel For Everything. I am a Van Hager convert. I probably listen to more Van Hager these days than the old school Van Halen records, even though I do love David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth's Eat 'Em and Smile album is one of my favorite rock albums ever, up there with the first couple of Van Halen albums. But I find Van Hager is one of those things where when you play those songs live, you get like a real appreciation of them. And Sammy's just a powerhouse. I didn't get it when I was younger, but I kind of get it now. I really like the project he did with Neil Schon, the HSAS album. If you can find that, go and check that one out. That's Sammy at his absolute best. This one is from PWR Mac. I always read that as Power Mac. Am I doing that right? Question for next week. When you're writing songs for your band, do you write more from a theory-based standpoint or more from a jam riffs until you stumble across anything that feels right? Definitely the latter for me. One thing that I love about writing music for Ragdoll is that I try to approach it from the perspective of somebody who just likes to listen to rock music. That's me, and try to take like a real childlike mindset to it. So I just try to, if I set aside some time to write something, I try not to put pressure on myself. I just try to go, you know what? If anything comes out, it's a bonus, but this is literally my time to play and to just not think and really try to go stream of consciousness and get into that flow state that neurologists and psychologists talk about, which is apparently very linked to a decrease in like self-chatter in your brain. And I mean, meditation is known to do a very similar thing as well. So always looking for the flow state and not thinking too much about the theory or anything like that. Just letting it happen and letting it feel good. This one is from Jonas Lund. Alrighty, I'm glad you liked my soundtrack last week. I hope this soundtrack's given you guys a vibe. Maybe not, it's given me a vibe. Where's my Chaos controller at? This is fun. Let's do this. This is filthy sounding. This is real. My headphones are cranked. It's probably not very loud in the actual Q&A, but this is fun. Do I like the Garcia and TJ Helmerich album? I do, yeah. That's a real kind of classic of that whole genre. I haven't listened to that in ages. I should go and check that out, and so should everybody watching this if they like really, really great, sophisticated lead guitar. Alrighty, where are we at next? Alrighty, a coffee bib would be sick. That's from Kyle Howdy. Another one from Who's Your Daddy? What's this question? A kind of amp modeling pedal board using AMT style preamps. I guess my attitude with that is that would be really fun, but I would still recommend to people to go and get an all-in-one modeler, like I said earlier. Okay, Jay's Droid, you'd love this for sleeping music. Okay, this Sunday I'm just going to put up like a 20 or 30 minute generative Bebo thing, and you can all bliss out to that one. Was I a fan of White Lion and Vito Bratta? I agree that Vito was one of the best guitarists of his generation. I would argue that he makes that band listenable. For me, White Lion without Vito would have been pretty forgettable because the songs are like super cookie cutter. Not that they're bad, but they are like, they're up there. But then his guitar playing and his sense of rhythm and lead playing really, really elevated that band. You could probably argue that for like George Lynch in Dokken, like, how many times is Don Dokken going to rhyme fire with desire? But you got George to kick in on all the leads. So that kind of makes it a whole lot more listenable. I think Vito's kind of similar for me as well. Scott Weldon said the sounds put his dog to sleep. Hopefully these ones aren't waking it up then. Okay, this one is from It's Me, the Seventh Seal. I have a Fortin Zool in plug-in format. It works great. I will definitely check out the ISP. Any chance to do an FM3 video showing the setup used for a gate as you mentioned here? Yes, if you check out my live rig rundown with the FM3, I've got an example of that. So you sidechain the gate to your input. This one is from Camille. Alrighty, let's he says, in my opinion, In Excess is a good example of how important a role a leader is. You checked out the Ragdoll acoustic version of Never Tear Us Apart and you liked it. Thank you. I appreciate that. There is another fantastic band from Australia, Icehouse, with a great leader, Ivor Davies. Would we ever cover any Icehouse songs? We've never actually covered any Icehouse, but they're like, you talk about Australian pub music, Cold Chisel, The Angels, AC/DC, Icehouse, In Excess, Baby Animals. What else would be on the heavy rotation? Obviously, Mossy, Barnsey, Daryl Braithwaite, all that kind of stuff it's at the forefront still of stuff that's played on the radio. So, yeah, Icehouse have some really, really good songs. I reckon if we were going to do something, I mean, Great Southern Land would almost be too cliche, but I love the verse in that song. That is a pumping verse, really, really great. How about a video on how to do the ambient stuff with Bebo and Digit? Soon. Like I said, I'll try and do a video for Sunday, which is just this stuff, and I might just fiddle around with it, and you can get an idea from then, and then I'll put up a video a week or two later breaking it down. That would be really fun. Again, you can go and check out Ben Jordan's channel for ambient modular ideas as well. Speaking of which, let me move some things on this. Okay, this one is from Jared. He loves the videos, thank you very much, and he wants to know when we might see the NUX MG30 on the channel. It is coming next week, so keep your eyes peeled. There's also something, because I was asked this, the 88 MP2 that I've got, I've just kind of caved into the pressure. I shot a video with it this week and it will be up tomorrow. So if you want to hear me rip on the 88 MP2, even though it's not 100% working, that will be up on Saturday. And last question is from Danthrax. He spent last weekend playing Nintendo Wii with his daughter. How good is the Nintendo Wii, by the way? And that background music reminded him of music from the menu. I agree. It's got that kind of thing going on, doesn't it? Alrighty. How do I go about miking up my real cab? Like if you saw the Synergy video during the week, or you've seen a bunch of my other preamp videos. So through that wall is a little storeroom, and I really have promised to do a video about this. I should do it, hopefully. Maybe I'll turn into like miking an amp tutorial, but I have a Marshall cabinet with greenbacks in there and a whole bunch of soundproofing stuff called tontine in there that I've got it wrapped with, and a couple of mics, so I can just kind of see what I'm feeling like on a particular day. And I normally do that in the middle of the day when no one else is home, so I can really crank it and not annoy the neighbors. But that has been a little bit harder over the last couple of weeks while we've been locked down over here. But yeah, that would be a really cool one, because I've got some new mics since I think the last time I did a breakdown of that, so that would be a nice one to show off. I do use my load box a lot of the time with IRs, and of course I use my modelers a bunch of the time as well. Probably like a 80-20 split. I would say like 80% of the time it's either a modeler or it's the load box with IRs, and then the other 20% is actually playing through a cabinet at home, mostly for demo videos these days, because I know a lot of people love the sound of the real cab. But I think the IRs they're getting there. All right. Thank you all so much for this week's questions. I'm going to see if I can not destroy this vibe going on with the music too quickly. Questions for next week, put them in the comments. Again, if you want to support the channel, you can buy my music. You can jump on the Patreon. We did a Zoom hangout this week on Patreon, and I posted a couple of exclusive lesson clips on there breaking down some improv stuff. So if you want to check that out, I think the minimum thing starts at $5 or something like that. Whole bunch of content. It's a cool vibe. Otherwise, tune in tomorrow. Hear the 88 MP2. I'll see you all then. Cheers.